Major developments in the Iran conflict. President Trump is extending the ceasefire at the request of Pakistan's leaders who have been mediating the negotiations. The president doing so because the Iranian terror regime is, quote, seriously fractured. And he goes on to say, quote, we have been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such time as Iran's leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed our military to continue the blockade and in all other respects remain ready and able. Well, earlier, President Trump was laying out what happens if Iran does not make a deal.
Well, I expect to be bombing because I think that's a better attitude to go in with. But we're ready to go. I mean, the military is raring to go. I want to make a good deal. I'm not going to be rushed. I have all the time in the world. I want to make not a good deal. I want to make a great deal.
Meanwhile, here's a question for the Democrats. What side are you on? Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy tweeting the word awesome in response to a report that Iranian ships had crossed the U.S. blockade in the Strait, a false report that turned out to be Iranian propaganda. Well, Murphy backtracked after widespread criticism, but he refused to apologize.
Twitter's become kind of a cesspool. I probably should give up on sarcasm on Twitter.
Do you regret the post? Are you planning on taking it down?
I mean, I guess I just have to be more careful about sarcasm on Twitter.
But many of his fellow Democrats aren't backing away from rooting for America to fail.
No one's cheering on Iran. We're cheering against a president who's doing something that's illegal. It's costly.
Did you ever imagine you would be more likely to believe the Ayatollah than the president of the United States?
They don't have a plan, and they've never had an exit strategy. I think that what's really going on here is that Donald Trump has lost his war, and now he's losing the peace as well.
The fact that we need to go to the mullahs in Iran to find out whether or not the president is just huffing or whether or not some of these words are supposed to have something to do with something that's happened in the real world.
So, Dana, it is pretty major news. We've been asked to hold our attack on the country of Iran until such a time as the leaders can come up with a unified response.
And I think President Trump gives us enough to imagine who's asking. I don't necessarily think it's the Iranians. It might be. It could be the Gulf allies that we have saying, like, let's give them a moment. I think the fact that they're fractured means that, like, who are you dealing with? You don't know. There is a possibility the IRGC is involved, or the Ayatollah, as Jesse's probably going to talk about. In addition to that, there was the news about the ship that we interdicted over the weekend was Chinese and was sending possible chemicals that you could use to build missiles. Okay, so then now you have major geopolitical problems going on across the board. And I think that with the president saying, I could, I might, I will, I'm willing to, I don't know, maybe I will. But extending the ceasefire is probably the right thing to do at this moment. You know, J.D. Vance has his bags packed and ready to go. And it's like being at the airport when they're like, well, actually, we're going to have to deplane. And then, oh, no, actually, get back on the plane. Oh, sorry, deplane. And so maybe he can just figure out a way to have dinner with his family tonight and not have to worry about that. It is hard for me to see, like, what is the clear path forward if the IRGC if we have this problem of them not being able to make a decision. But the economic pressure on the regime is excruciating. And so perhaps that finally is the forcing mechanism that gets them to the table.
Yeah, and I mean, Piers, the economic pressure is real. The blockade has imposed that. And then you have Secretary Bessent coming out and saying, you know, economic Operation Fury is on and, you know, leveling sanctions.
Yes, if I could put a slight spanner in the works from my perspective. I mean, I actually posted about 20 minutes ago on X that I speak with absolute certainty and authority here when I say I have no idea what is now happening in the Iran war, which I think is probably the intellectually honest position. And I'm not entirely sure President Trump has complete control of what is happening here either. And that it should concern him, and it concerns me. I think the problem here is that America and Israel combined obviously have the most powerful military the world's ever seen. I think that's unarguable. And they've inflicted enormous damage on the military side in this war. But there's been an asymmetric war which has been going on involving a little stretch of water, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Iranians have been attacking their Gulf neighbors in a horribly effective manner, which has really damaged the business model of those Gulf states going forward, which relies on safety and sunshine and tourism and sport and entertainment and so on. So there's a lot going on here. And every time President Trump says something with any certainty, the Iranians immediately deny all knowledge of this. Who knows what the truth is? What we do know is the initial plan to potentially effect a regime change has not happened. I don't think it's going to happen. There's no sign of a public uprising in Iran, and it's all coming down to the Strait of Hormuz at the moment. And the economic damage to the Iranians is clear, and clearly they've got a big problem there. But the economic and political damage for President Trump is also a peril, I think, to him. And he's aware of that. There's a ticking clock to the midterms. And, I saw the latest polling at the weekend, and it made pretty grim reading. Most Americans are not in favor of this war. They would rather the president focused on domestic agenda, and they want this over. My advice to President Trump, I've known him 20 years. I think he's got a very good deal-making brain. But my advice is get out of this as fast as you can and in the most clean way that you can, because the longer it goes on, the worse it gets for everybody.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.